Yulia Navalny, widow of well-known Russian Alexei Navalny, once Russia's most prominent opposition leader and Kremlin critic, has recently gave a series of interviews to Western media. First, she spoke to French outlets, declaring her ambition to become the woman Putin fears, followed by a more detailed interview with the BBC. Yulia made headlines by stating that she intends to return to Russia to run in the presidential election in the future, though not while Putin is in power. As Russian propaganda channels were quick to remind, it would end up with her in prison. But how does Yulia Navalny plan to win over the Russian electorate whilst essentially being exiled out of Russia, living abroad? Will she not be completely out of touch of what the Russian people want? It's tough, but not without precedent, by the way. Lenin lived out of Russia for about 17 years before returning in 1917 to lead the Bolshevik Revolution. If they managed to do it without today's technology, Yulia believes that there's definitely a way forward for her and her team. What stood out most was her blunt take on whether the West, despite all the talk of the consequences, did enough to respond to Navalny's killing. As Yulia pointed out, and this sentiment is actually shared among most of us, the reaction was absurdly inadequate, she says. There was no serious action taken. For example, only 33 individuals and 2 entities were sanctioned. The penal colonies where Navalny was held, along with several mid-level officials from the Ministry of Justice and the penal system. These sanctions were largely symbolic, targeting people who neither travel abroad or hold any foreign assets. In essence, the West imposed travel bans and asset freezes on nobodies. So these interviews really gave nothing new, but perhaps her chance to reframe the narrative during all this Russian opposition infighting, a chance to continue the support she receives from the West. We all know that the West loves a Russian oppositionist, and yet another chance to push Navalny's latest book. But this time, Yulia came across more confident, had a definite improved level of English, and was more politically polished, as we often see in the West.